Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah, wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in, amma ba'd. This is our fifth session in our study of al-Muqaddimah al-Ajrumiyyah in the topic of Nahu, al-Qawa'id al-Arabiyyah. And we have just recently finished a nice little worksheet that we have all done together. And at this time, we are on the fifth lesson with our books open. What's the title of lesson 5? How to recognize a fi'l. Barakallahu feekum. وَالْفِعْلُ يُعْرَفُ بِقَدْ. Fi'l, the verb, is recognized by qad, 4 signs. We're going to look at 4 signs. قد, وسين, وسوف, وتاء التأنيث الساكنة. 4 signs. The first one is called qad, a word that consists of 2 letters, a qaf and a dal. The qaf is always maftuh and the dal is always sakina. It's a fatha on the qaf and a sukoon on the dal. There may be prefixes, but there may not be suffixes. It might be walaqad. It might be falaqad. It might be laqad. But it cannot be qad something. Qaddasa. It can't have another letter after the dal in the same word. It has to be qad. Qaf maftuha, qaf with a fatha, and a dal with a sukoon. Examples. In Surah Al-Shams. قد أفلح من زكاها. قد أفلح. The word أفلح, is it a fi'l, an ism, or a harf? It's a fi'l. How do you know? It comes after the word qad. Qad is a sign of the word after it being a fi'l. That's what we're trying to get out of this point here. Now, qad comes sometimes with a past tense verb. قد سمع الله قول التي تجادلك في زوجها. Certainly Allah has heard the statement of the lady who is grieving to you about her husband, complaining to you about her husband. Certainly Allah has heard that. Then this qad with a past tense verb comes as confirmation. Certainly that happened. So then looking at qad sami'a, which is the first verse of Surah Al-Mujadilah, in the beginning of juz, who knows the name of the juz? Qad sami'a. It's named after these first 2 words. Qad sami'a. So the word sami'a, is it an ism, a fi'l, or a harf? It's a fi'l. And why do you say it's a fi'l? Because it comes after qad. لَقَدْ خَلَقَنَا الْإِنسَانَ. Certainly we have created mankind. Laqad. Now with the lam in front of the qad, we have khalaqana. The word khalaqana, is it an ism, fi'l, or a harf? It's a fi'l. You get the idea. Because it comes after qad. Here with the lam on it. Laqad. Let me test you just to see if you know that it's not absolute. That this is a general rule, but sometimes you may see a qad at the end of a word, and it's not a sign of a verb coming up next. من شر النفاثات في العقد. العقد. Now see, you know at this stage, Aba Abdul Fattah, that al-uqad is a noun. You're looking at the word and other factors, and you have a bit of a vocabulary so as to know the meaning of that word. But imagine someone who's just looking for nouns and verbs and he doesn't know much vocabulary. He's seeing qad at the end, and he doesn't get why that's not the qad we're looking for. So there are times that maybe, depending on the level of your vocabulary and how much you know about other rules that we have yet to study in this series, you may get a little confused here and there. It's a good rule that works almost all of the time for the beginner. When you see qad or laqad or falaqad or walaqad, the next word is going to be a verb. Now, laqad kana lakum. Naam. Laqad kana. What's kana? It's a fi'l. That's all we want to look at right now. Because you have qad, and then you have kana. Kana is a fi'l because qad is an indicator to fi'liyah, that thing coming next is a fi'l. طيب. Let me throw a curveball at you. from your favorite surah. فَالْمُورِيَاتِ قَدْحًا. In Surah Al-Adiyat, yeah, we have فَالْمُورِيَاتِ قَدْحًا. What do you say here? قَدْحًا. What do you think? Here's qad. This doesn't work. Why? Because qadha has more after it in the same word. It's not the end of qad has to be the end of the word, absolutely. It can have a prefix, but it cannot have a suffix. It cannot have letters after the qad. Here we have a qaf with a fatha and a dal with a sukoon, and then a ha, and then fathatani. So that doesn't work there. That's not the qad that's intended here.
What's the name of a prefix in Arabic?
There's different names of it. It could be a damir, it could be an adat, it could be a harf. Yeah, it could be a number of things. The second sign of a verb then is the seen. And the seen is going to be difficult for you at this time. Because just a seen that has a specific usage, you sort of have to know which seen is for what. The seen here comes with a fi'l mudari', a present tense verb. And we really haven't even introduced present tense verbs versus past tense verbs at this stage yet. So I don't know how helpful the seen is going to be to you. But I'll mention to you a few examples. And that is, first of all, the seen has to be maftuha, has to have a fatha on it, sa, and it has to come at the beginning of the word or relatively close to the beginning of the word. It can be fasaya'lamun. It can come after a fa or a waw or something, but it's in the beginning of a present tense verb. And again, like if I introduce to you, inna sa'yakum lashatta. Inna sa'yakum lashatta. You hear sa'yakum lashatta. If you don't know the meaning of sa'yakum and you haven't studied this verse, you say, well, here's a scene, it has a fatha on it in the beginning of a word. This is the sign of a fi'l. And I understand that would be difficult for you. So this is not something that you can really use as a tool. This one, this scene, as opposed to the next word, the sofa. The sofa is going to be very useful for you, but not the scene, because you're not able to distinguish what kind of scene this is. Is it a scene from the letters of the verb or noun? Is it a scene of sofa, the scene that verb will happen? We don't really know at this stage. An example of it would be what's in Surah An-Naba. كلا سيعلمون ثم كلا سيعلمون. It means they will come to know. Future, it changes the verb from present tense to future tense. That will happen. كلا سيعلمون. There's an example of it happening. So the descriptions of this scene is that the scene comes in the beginning of the word. It has a fatha on it, and it comes before a present tense verb, a fi'lu mudari'. That's the intention of the scene here, as an indicator of a fi'l. So saya'lamun then. Ya'lamun is? It's a fi'l because of the scene here. طيب, the third sign is the sawfa. وَالْفِعْلُ يُعْرَفُ بِقَدْ وَسِينْ وَسَوْفَ. Sawfa now. Sawfa is a little easier because it's its own word. It's not a prefix to a verb like the scene is. It's its own word. And sometimes it might come with wasawfa, fasawfa, wala sawfa, but it's going to come with no suffix, like qad. No suffix, nothing at the end of the word. Sawfa will come alone. And sawfa must be just like that. A fatha on the sin, a sukoon on the waw, and a fatha on the fa. Sawfa. It's not going to come sufu or anything else. Sawfa, just like that. Maybe after a waw or a couple of letters here and there, that's possible. Kalla sawfa ta'lamun. In Surah التكاثر. كلا سوف تعلمون ثم كلا سوف تعلمون. There's an example of that. The word تعلمون is then? It's a fi'l. It's not an ism, it's not a harf, because of the sign سوف coming before it. سوف is an indicator that the word coming after it is a fi'l. In Surah Al-Layl, وَلَسَوْفَ يَرْضَى. وَلَسَوْفَ. Now it comes with a waw and a lam. Wala sawfa yarda. The word yarda is an ism, fi'l, or a harf. It's a fi'l because it comes after sawfa. Barakallahu feekum. In Surah Al-Duha, wala sawfa yu'tika rabbuka fatarda. Wala sawfa yu'tika. We have sawfa there And then yu'tika. The word yu'tika, is it a noun, verb, ism, harf, or a fi'l? It's a fi'l because sawfa is a sign of the fi'l after it. This is easier for you to use. You can see a sawfa much easier than you'd be able to pick out a scene and know that that's the scene that has the same meaning as sawfa. And it changes the present tense verb to the future. So sawfa is a bit easier to use as an indicator. Yeah? And I would say really, without much vocabulary, the scene is not going to be of much use for you. To say there's a scene there, so what comes after it must be a verb, it might lead you astray more often than helping you. The last one then, the fourth sign of something being a fi'l, is ta'ut ta'nith as-sakina. Ta'nith as-sakina. It's a ta. And this ta is maftuha. And it's sakina. Abdul Latif, do you have a clue what I'm saying here? This ta is maftuha. And it's sakina. Maftuha means what? All right, some people are saying it has a fatha. Abdul Latif knows I'm talking about the shape of the ta. It's not a ta marbuta. It has a circular end to it. That's called a tied up ta. You take the ta and you wrap it up and make it marbuta. The ta that comes at the end of the word and is stretched out. It's maftuha, it's laid out. I don't mean maftuha with a fatha. I mean maftuha al-shakal. It's opened up and spread out. And then it's sakina min hayth al-haraka. It has a sukoon on it, not a fatha, not a dhamma, and not a kasra. This ta has to have a sukoon. And add to that, it has to come at the end of a word. And there's a chance for a pronoun to be added on. There's a chance for a suffix to come after it. It's possible, but let's just try to find it in words that just end with this ta. And it's called ta'nith, so that means in terms of meaning, it indicates femininity and not masculinity. All right? It comes on a verb. It means not that the word coming next is a verb, but that the word that ends with this ta is the fi'l itself. Not like qad and sofa that indicate the next word is a fi'l. This indication, ta'nith as-sakina, means the word that it ends, the one that comes before this ta, is a fi'l. Tabbat yada abi lahab. Perish the hands of Abu Lahab. Tabbat. Here we have the ta. It's spread out. It's got a sukoon on it. And it comes at the end of a word. Tabbat. So the word tabbat is an ism, fi'l, or a harf. It's a fi'l because it has ta'nith as-sakina at the end of it. Let me ask you about this. Pay attention. وَالنَّازِعَاتِ غَرْقًا. وَالنَّازِعَاتِ. We have a ta stretched out. Yeah, at the end of a word. You're saying no. Wow al-qasam. You're a little too deep here. Starts with alif lam. Okay, you're too deep also. Something more obvious here, based on what I've just explained to you. وَالنَّازِعَاتِ. It's not even sakina. This is called ta'nith as-sakina. So if it's maksura, it's not sakina. وَالنَّازِعَاتِ cannot be ta'nith as-sakina. Even though it looks opened up, it's maftuha, right? It is at the end of a word. It's got some signs, but it doesn't have a sukoon on it, so it cannot be considered a ta'nith as-sakina. Barakallahu fikum. And these are our three indicators of a fi'l here. 4. Yeah, 4. Just checking to see if you're paying attention. These are our 4 indicators of a fi'l this evening. I can add one more. Mustadrikan ala al-imam, rahimahullah. I'll add on one more if you just want to know that these lists are not absolute. There are lots of indicators of nouns beyond what we've learned. And there are other indicators of verbs beyond what we learned. The point is to give you a few indicators as a beginner to learn. I like the one I'm going to add because it's also easy. I think it's easier than the scene. وَالْفِعْلُ يُعْرَفُ بِقَدْ وَسِينْ وَسَوْفَ. I think it's much easier than that scene. And it's the word lam. Lam, which is a negation of a present tense verb. The verb coming after lam, a lam with a fatha and a mim with a sukoon. Absolutely just like that. And it might have something before it like walam, Might have a waw or something before it, but it is lam. Lam, mim. It comes before a present tense verb and it negates the present tense verb. It's a negator. Lam yajlis means he did not sit. Yeah, jalasa, he sat. Lam yajlis. No, he did not sit. So lam comes only before the present tense verb. You can't say lam zayd. Lam al-kitab. You can say lima. Lima hada. Lima. Why? But that's a different dabt. Not lam, lima. So when it comes lam with a fatha and a mim with a sukoon, you have a sign of a fi'l coming next. So lam yakun alladhina kafaru in the beginning of Surah Al-Bayyinah. Lam yakun. The word yakun is it's a fi'l because it comes after lam. Easy. And you can say walan too as well. Like I said, there's lots of them. And also len. Add that one on. Lam noon. Len. The len that comes with a fetha on the lam and a sukoon on the noon. You could probably think and bring up a lot more as well. The point here is not to really add on a list of things. You should know that you're accountable in terms of your study of Ajrumiyyah. You're accountable for the 4 things mentioned in the text. And what's been mentioned beyond that is just to show you that there are other signs and that these are not the only signs of a fi'l. Likewise for the ism, those are not the only signs of asma. Naam. And Allah Ta'ala knows best. Allahumma barik. I really like these lessons, and I really feel that we're taking these things piecemeal, little by little, and we're able to come together and sit for 20 minutes to 30 minutes as a maximum amount of time, and add on a little linguistic benefit and a little skill to our, our language, little by little. We ask Allah Ta'ala for al-ilm bitadarruj. We ask Allah for knowledge by this steady increase of level by level increase, which is how knowledge is learned. And it's not learned jumla. It's not learned by, overburdening yourself in one big, massive, devoted effort to learning, but rather it is step by step and building stage by stage. إِنَّمَا الْعِلْمُ بِالتَّعَلُّمِ. Knowledge is only the result of ta'allum. Ta'allum is bitadarruj, learning it stage by stage, mas'alatan, issue after issue. Are there any questions, concerns, comments about alamatul fi'l, the signs by which fi'ls are known? Allahumma barik. This recording will be available soon to you in the group for those of you who wish to review it or advise those who are absent to go ahead and get it. And Allah knows best. وَصَلِّ اللَّهُمَّ وَسَلِّمْ وَبَارِكْ عَلَى نَبِيِّنَا مُحَمَّدٍ وَعَلَى آلِهِ وَصَحْبِهِ أَجْمَعِينَ.